Doth do us part, according to God's holy ordinance, and thereto I pledge thee my faith, or pledge myself to you.
All right. So it says, and you read it, according to God's holy ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's that covenant.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it not only to our spouses,
Yes.
but we're also in covenant with God
Amen.
Himself.
Right.
So let's talk about the vow. Let's talk about the vow. Start with you, Jerome. Let's just talk about the vow. You know,
Wow.
in thinking on this today, I have a different concept than I had 30 years ago.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
my attention was on the venue.
Mm-hmm.
My attention was on my dress, on how many bridesmaids, how many groomsmen, you know, the reception.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my attention was, because that's every girl's dream,
Right.
to have her ideal wedding.
Right.
However, I didn't put very much focus
Mhm.
on the vow itself
Self.
as I would today. So let's talk about
Exactly.
that. Let's talk about
And
it.
I'm glad you said that, because we were talking about that coming over here, and Kim asked me the same question. And to me, when we got married the first time,
Mhm.
the vows was just words. It meant that I was going to be spending the rest of my life sharing it with Kim,
Mhm.
but it didn't carry any weight.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on.
It didn't. And when we said those vows, I meant them. I said what the pastor told me to say,
Okay.
but
That's the thing.
it wasn't in here.
Okay.
And like I told Kim, coming over here, I had a little bit of skepticism. And we did renew our vows back in October,
Just last year?
just this year, last
Wow.
year, yes. And this time,
Mhm.
I knew what I was saying, because we said our own vows.
Okay.
Okay, according to God, living under God's ordinance.
Okay.
And like you said, this is a covenant now.
Mm.
It's a covenant between us and to God. And when we went through this, it was, God had already changed me.
Mhm.
So now, I'm responsible not only to Kim, but to God. For every action I take, every word I say, I'm responsible for it.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I like that.
You know, in you saying that, Jerome, it made me thought about, we hear this quoted often in the Bible, that we shouldn't be unequally yoked.
Right.
You know, meaning that we should have balance, and we
Yes.
should be on one accord.
Right.
There are a lot of people say, well, we both should be believers. But we can go further than just being believers
Oh,
when we
yes.
talk about
Yes.
unequally yoked.
Yes.
We can also relate that to having the same mindset.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
one going in for one particular thing and the other going in for
yes.
something totally different.
Right.
Not
Totally
having
different.
goals that are similar or complement the other. That is still unequally yoked.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
so when you said that, it made me thought about going into it the second time. It felt like you guys were more equally yoked
Yes.
as to what you want to do and what marriage really is this particular
Exactly.
time.
Exactly.
And you know, we were talking about renewing our vows.
Yes.
Almost did it
Yeah.
last year.
on the beach.
Yes.
Right.
And my husband has been asking me to do this for some time now, and I'm more apt to doing it now because
Please do it. Yes.
after 30 years,
Yes.
I see marriage totally different.
Yes.
And I
Oh,
believe
yes.
going into the renewal,
Because
There's
we
gonna
didn't
be a
have
difference.
the luxury of having premarital counseling. We didn't
That's
think
right.
about things
That's
like that.
right.
My wife said the only thing we were thinking about was how many bridesmaids and grooms and what kind of tux we're going to wear at the venue.
Right.
We didn't think
Exactly.
about
Right.
Exactly.
the work that went behind it. And just like you said, Jerome, The words, I'm not saying that they didn't mean
Mean anything,
anything.
right.
It's just that I was just repeating what he was saying.
Right, exactly.
And it wasn't until our ups and downs and the trials of our marriage that it made me realize, wait a minute, man, this is
yeah.
way beyond what I just recited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. And then you were waiting to kiss the bride as well, right?
Best part.
And for us, the first time we got married, we did have marriage counseling. Now,
Yeah.
we didn't, because we had been married previously, we weren't worried about the big wedding.
Okay.
Right.
But we went through the counseling. We
Mhm.
went through everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that part where you're saying the unequally yoked,
Mhm.
I was going into that all the way wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Right.
And I told him on the way over here, I'm so proud of him because, you know, he holds nothing back now.
Mhm.
So the fact that he can admit that there was skepticism,
That's a good place.
Mm-hmm.
that's a good place to be
Yes,
now.
It is.
yes.
Because he's like, you know, I loved her, I wanted her,
Yeah,
but I was
exactly.
still skeptical.
Mhm.
You know, now me, I was all the way in. So we did all the marriage counseling.
Okay.
We, you know, and for me, standing up there, and I had some friends had me laughing so hard after our first wedding because they said, Kim, you looked like you could have eaten him with a spoon.
Wow.
Because I was all in.
Wow.
That
She
day.
was.
I was
She
all
was.
in.
Can I get a visual of that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it looked like. I was like, what? I know. I was like, what are y'all talking about?
Whoa.
But they were like, you could have eaten him with a spoon. But I was serious
You
about
were
that.
invested.
I was
She
totally,
was.
I was totally
She was.
invested.
Mhm.
And it was just, I don't know how.
Could you see that, Jerome?
I did see it.
Wow.
I did see it. And the thing about it, I cherished that. I did until I started messing up.
Yeah.
You know, and we were talking about this earlier too. I was a fool. I really was, because I had a beautiful wife at home that loved me, would do anything in the world for me. But I didn't know how to, what's the right word I'm looking for?
Cherish?
Cherish it. And now my prayer in the mornings, and I have it on my mirror, right?
Yes, he does.
Yes. I will cherish her,
Wow.
hear her, and serve her.
Wow.
And that's what I try to do each and every day.
Wow.
Come on, sir.
Yes. yes.
I'm glad you said that.
I have the women's card. So
Okay.
he always had it. And I was
Always
looking at
had
it
it.
one day, and it's like a two-sided. I was like, oh, there's a female piece. So I have that on my side.
Cool.
Yes.
So we both see it every morning.
Wow.
morning.
Well, let's talk
I love
about, let's read the scripture relating to what you just stated. Peter says, you husbands, in the same way, live with your wives in understanding as with someone weaker. Since she is a woman, show her honor as a fellow heir of the grace
Mhm.
Yes.
of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered.
Amen.
Rather, to a
Yes.
husband that loves her and pursues her,
Mm.
giving her the
Not
desires,
stop.
not stop,
That's
Oh.
not.
giving her the desires
No
of
stop.
her
Don't
heart,
stalk her.
because he places her high in respect and honor. That's that cherished part.
Yes,
Yes.
that's that cherished part.
That's that
Yes.
cherished part.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes.
That's
Yes. Yes.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yes.
Come on, babe. What you got? What you got?
Just like I started thinking back to our wedding when I saw you walking. When at first your father was walking you down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
Redeem
that
yourself.
That was.
That's amazing,
That's
wasn't it?
out of 30 years, I still have that image
Wow.
in my head.
That's
Warren.
great.
Just to see
The size 8
her
and all.
coming down.
Yeah.
The size 8 and all.
Yeah.
That's the way he still sees it.
I mean, you could have been big as a house. It didn't
didn't
matter.
matter. It didn't matter.
Just
Yes.
to see you coming down the aisle.
Wow.
It's a
it
beautiful
really,
sight.
It took my breath. It really took my breath away.
Yes.
Wow.
It did.
But you know the one
Yeah.
thing that I try to tell people, because we talk about people focusing on the wedding.
Right.
I'm also a wedding planner.
Oh,
Right.
Yes.
Awesome.
So when we're
she's a wedding planner.
yes. So when I'm sitting with that bride and groom and we're going through their guest list,
Mhm.
the first thing I ask them is, who are all of these people?
Okay.
Have you really spent time with these people?
Yes.
Because people focus so much on the dress, who's going to be there,
Mhm.
what we're going to eat, how we're going to party later,
Mhm.
who's going to hold you accountable in
Wow.
6 months.
Wow.
And I've had so many couples.
Is that one of your questions?
It is.
It is.
That's
It
awesome.
really
It
is.
is. Because I've had so many couples to dwindle down that guest list. Because are they there because they love you? Because there's a part of those vows that is also to that guest.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Because you're there, you're witnessing
Mhm.
something that is God's holy ordinance.
Wow. That's good.
Once that bride comes in, it becomes sacred.
Mm.
Those doors are closed, and it's between the people in that room, God, that bride and groom.
That's awesome.
So you've got to have people that are going to hold you accountable.
Amen.
You're right about it.
So, you know, and a lot of men and women, we struggle with that.
Mhm.
Once we begin to go through something, we don't want to tell anybody. We want to hold it in.
Wow.
And that's where it begins to fall apart because you're not willing to be held
Mm.
accountable.
Mm.
Yes.
And doesn't
I love
have that
that.
support system
Exactly.
in place.
Exactly.
It's imperative to have a support system
Mhm.
in place as
Exactly.
well when things fall apart.
Right.
And
Yes.
that reminds me of the movie Fireproof.
Yes.
Yes,
Mm,
having
yes.
that support
Support
system.
system. Yes.
Those guys held him accountable,
Exactly.
and that
Yes,
is
they
so
did.
powerful. You guys mentioned going through the wedding. What is it? Counseling.
Mhm.
After being married, this is your second marriage, and
Right.
you thought that it was a need to go
Oh,
through
yes.
the marriage
Mhm.
counseling. I just wanted to throw a pin in there because we were both married before. I guess we didn't even think about it
Right.
because we figured, hey, been down this road
Road
before.
before,
Right.
However, that was a mistake on our part.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, that
Right.
was a mistake on our
Yeah.
part. And I can say to this day, being that we have been married before,
Mhm.
we're careful for nothing. However, I think the marriage counseling, we would have really benefited
Oh,
from
yes.
that. In the
Definitely.
early years
Definitely.
when we were learning one another,
Right.
we would have benefited from it. And
Right.
I think it would have taken a lot of struggle out of
Yes.
the early years because research states that the first 5 years is the
Yes.
most crucial
Yes.
time in a marriage.
Mhm.
And I can concur.
Yes.
Those 5 years was pretty
Yes.
crucial.
Yes,
Yes.
and that's when we begin to have our problems in our
Mm.
5th year.
Yes.
But when I'm speaking of the counseling, I'm not talking about when we renewed. I'm talking about when we got married the first time.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
We went through the counseling.
Okay.
But I was all in.
Mm-hmm.
He was just there
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And a lot of the questions that the pastor asked him didn't hold true.
No. it
You
didn't.
know, but
It isn't.
you're right. That first 5 years, because going into our 5th year
Mm-hmm.
is when, as I stated when we did the interview with Trina,
Mm-hmm.
that's when hell broke loose going
Wow.
into that 5th year.
Right in the 5th
So
year.
yeah, so if you don't have that communication, yeah,
And then, Kimbley, the support system, you know, because during that time, we didn't have a big support system.
Mhm.
Now, we knew our parents were there,
Oh, yeah,
but,
sure.
you know, who want to go to the
Right,
parents? You know,
exactly.
we wanted, they don't know anything. You know, we're young and, you know, we're going to do it differently than
Right.
them. So we thought,
Right.
however, they did know, but we didn't go to them.
right.
Well, you know, and then we grew up in the
Yeah.
in the environment that says what happens in the house stays
Stays
in the house.
And that's
I
where
grew
he
up
was.
hearing
Right.
that
Uh-huh.
stuff,
Yes,
and that
yes.
was so
Yes.
wrong,
Right.
because it isolated us to the point to say, well, the house is on fire, we're just going to burn.
Burn.
Exactly.
We can't get out, we're just
Exactly.
going to burn. Except
Exactly.
the Lord help us,
Yeah.
we're going to burn here.
And you know, that's the thing with the men. Don't nobody need to know what I'm going through.
Okay.
For
Right.
me, I was willing to let people in. I
Yeah, I
was
wasn't.
begging.
Me too.
I was
I
begging.
wasn't.
I was willing to let
I
people in.
wasn't.
And I think that's a woman thing.
I think so.
We will cry out.
Mhm.
But he,
Mhm.
and we were burning. We were already engulfed.
Wow.
But he didn't want to let anyone in.
Because I was, at the time, I felt like I could handle it.
And you're a
I didn't-
man, huh?
Right, and I'm a man. And I didn't want anybody in my business.
Right.
That's just how I feel,
Mhm.
Right.
you know.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
but-
Absolutely.
but God.
Yes.
But
And
God.
I think it's like that because
Yeah.
that's how God created you
Yeah,
guys.
sure.
And just like Kimbley said, I wanted to reach out.
Yes.
However, I was mindful
Yes.
that he would shut down even the more.
Yes.
If I invited someone in, he would shut down even
That's
the
what
more.
we do.
So then it would become my problem
Right.
and not our problem.
Right.
Yep, yep.
And I will be honest, because y'all know I'm transparent. That
Yes.
was my mistake.
Mm.
I almost ambushed him one night.
Wow.
I invited 2 couples to come over,
Okay.
and he wasn't there. And I had told him that I had invited them to come over,
Okay.
and he told me he was mad, and he left.
Okay.
But when they got there, I still cried out to
To
them.
them.
So ladies, don't ambush him. If he's not willing, don't force him.
Mm.
Go to God. Like I said last week, keep people out.
And then Kim, you resorted to that.
Yeah, because
You
I
went
was
to God.
it did
After
because
that
I
part
was
didn't
crying
work.
out, and it did. It left me alone because I think it really made him resent me.
Mm.
Right.
Because he didn't want anybody in.
Right.
But these were people that loved us, and these were people that I felt like he would trust enough for us just to sit down that evening and just have some conversation. But it did not work.
But you have to have a willing party.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And
And
what
he
meant,
was not
did it make
willing.
you feel weak, Jerome, to admit what was going on to someone else on the outside?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It does.
yes.
It does.
And
It does.
see, that's just the opposite of us. We feel that, okay, I'm in trouble, I need help.
Right.
And I can tell, and the reason I posed the question, because that's how my husband would approach it.
Right.
You know, because I'm the man, I'm the head of the house.
Exactly.
And so now,
Exactly.
this make me look like I'm not handling my business, or I can't
Exactly.
handle my business.
Right.
Talk about that, baby.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement with Jerome because although we were going through a lot, and then you bringing other people in,
Yes.
that
Right.
just make me build another wall. So now,
Exactly.
when
Exactly.
they're gone, now you got another wall you have to tear down
Right.
in order to get to me. Because
Right.
you know, just like Jerome said, I'm shut down because
Right.
you're making me say, you're saying to me that I'm not man enough to handle the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's-
And see,
it's
ladies,
sad.
we don't think that because we're nurturers by
We-
nature.
By nature,
We're
yeah.
fixers.
Exactly.
You know, we'll take a house and turn it into a home.
Right.
You know, we'll cook, take care of the baby, and clean because we multitask. That's how we are wired.
Right.
God made us like this. However, we can be our own worst enemies when it comes
Amen.
to taking over
Right.
and overshadowing them. And that's what I've learned down through the years. And someone wanted to interview me on a show just this week in our network, and she wanted to know how we keep this thing successful and how we keep the flames burning throughout 30 years.
Wow.
And my question, Doc Honeycutt, is not overshadowing my husband.
Right.
Understanding
Amen.
who God created him to be, understanding his place, his divine place, and then understanding who I am in God. So
Yes.
I don't have to overshadow him. I don't have to I don't have to ambush him into any type of instant because I've learned to be comfortable with who I am.
Yes.
Now,
Yes, yes.
I didn't start out like that
Right.
because, when we got married, I had a business. I had my own home. So I'm a strong woman by nature. However, I needed God to
Yes.
show me who he was in my
Yes.
life. And when
Yes.
I got a look at who God sent me as a mate, then I just relaxed and
Amen.
let it go.
That's
And
exactly
there you go.
right. That's right.
And I've been blessed ever since that.
Amen.
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 So talk
Amen.
about that, Kim.
Which part?
The part of not overshadowing, as you have grown in your marriage, versus from beginning to now, the lessons that you've learned. See, this is helping someone.
Yes.
This is helping those newlyweds. Is helping couples 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10, all the way up to 30 years, because I don't mind being transparent, because if it worked for me, I want to reach
Yes.
out and help
Amen.
someone
Yes.
else.
Yes.
So
Yes.
talk about your learning experience from beginning to now. What would you tell someone out there? how to handle that mate.
If you have, I don't consider myself to have a big personality.
Mhm.
People say that I don't meet strangers.
Okay.
And I don't feel I do. But if you are a woman that has a big personality, that can sometimes work against you. And as you're saying, just relax. Ask God to show you truly who your mate is.
Okay.
And the one thing about Jerome, he does not speak a lot, but he has a quiet strength. Quiet strength. And he reminds me so much of the way my father was. My father was so quiet and so peaceful until.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Amen.
stay in, and I know women hate this, hear this phrase, but I don't mean it negative. Stay in your place. And when I say that, I don't mean you're supposed to be behind your man. You walk side by side with him.
That's right.
Amen.
But just know
Amen.
how God has ordained us as women to be. We are nurturers. We are prayers. And that's what we're supposed to do.
That's
Yes.
right.
When I realized that night, that ambushing him made it worse, and truly everything got worse before it got better.
Oh, I absolutely.
When I learned that, Kim, shut your mouth and pray.
Okay now.
When I began to pray, is really when he became uneasy.
Oh yeah.
He didn't know how to handle me becoming quiet. Still asking him questions and trying to get to the forefront of what really was going on with him.
Okay.
But I began to pray.
Wow.
I learned how to ask God to bridle my tongue. And it's okay to be quiet. It's okay. And
That
when
was words right there, when she's quiet.
Wow.
Oh,
they don't
man,
know
you took the
what
words
we're
right out of my
Wow.
mouth.
Wow. Wow.
you know,
It
and,
really
That
gives.
took the words right out of my mouth.
and you just begin to pray and give it to God. You can still be that strong
Oh
woman.
yeah, and you can still be yourself.
Exactly, but there's power and strength in that prayer. That's when you truly become a strong woman.
Okay.
Amen.
That's when you become that woman that he needs, that holds his back. Even when he's going through, even when he is in his darkest space.
Right. And understand that we're here to affirm.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's even more
Yes.
powerful than words.
Because when a woman prays, heaven listens.
All right.
Amen.
That's awesome.
Amen.
Babe, she reminded me just what she was saying. She reminded me during our 5th year, I think, the storm that that we dealt with, you know, when we were building our home and we were going through that transitional period, and I couldn't get into you, even though we were in a great place
Yeah,
financially, I thought,
Yes.
because of the business.
right.
But you felt alienated, you felt shut out, you felt you weren't in your place. Talk about that.
Yeah, and when, especially from a man's point of view, when just like my wife said, we were in a good place, but I felt out of place because I felt, you know, I'm the man, I was
Yes.
supposed to bring home the bacon, I'm the,
Bacon,
you know,
sure.
it's, and but even in that, I still felt out of place, and I was redirecting all that negative energy towards
Just
her.
her. I understand.
And at the same time, I was shutting down, and she couldn't figure out
What in the
what's going on.
Right.
I mean, we got all this we doing, and
Yeah.
but the thing was, I wasn't in my place.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
during that season you had backslid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at a very anointed service. And on my way home, you know, I'm feeling good in my spirit, but
Yes.
I'm a little vexed in my spirit because I miss you at my side.
Right.
You know, it was just me and the kids, and we
Yes.
were coming home. And I began to praise God for what I felt in the service and for what I knew He was going to do. And just for an instant, y'all, I had an open dream, and in my open vision, I saw Him returning back to church. So I get home, I see Him as I saw Him in the open vision,
Yes.
Okay now.
preparing Himself to come back to
Yes.
church.
Yes.
And He wasn't really in that state, nor was He dressing to go to church. And I shook myself, and He said, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, you know, I just swept it under the rug and just went on. But I started to praise God for that. Little did I know he was preparing himself. So when Sunday came,
Amen.
he was already
Yes.
prepared. And what he
Yes.
said to me was, the reason I got up, he says, because you never stopped caring for me. You never stopped being intimate with me.
Amen.
He said, you never treated me harsh because of what was going on. And that's another thing I want to tell
Yes.
women tonight.
You get ready to take the words.
Oh my God. You are to be who God has called you to be. And this is a covenant.
Yes.
Yes.
First between you
Yes.
and God, and then you and your mate.
Amen.
So even though I was
Amen.
vexed in my spirit, even though I was broken at that moment, I trust God.
Amen.
There were many
Amen.
lonely nights when the tears ran down my face, but I kept saying, but God, you promised. And I kept on doing what the word of God says
Yes.
I should do unto my husband.
Right.
And as I continue to do that, I took care of my business.
Yes.
God took care of
Yes.
this business.
Amen.
And we were talking
Amen.
about that on our way over
Yes.
here because the one thing I love about our communication now is everything that we went through,
Mhm.
we can talk about it now. He doesn't feel attacked. I can ask him anything,
Anything.
and he'll answer the
Anything.
questions. And even though I knew that he was seeing someone else, I knew that
Mm-hmm.
his time was spent somewhere else,
Mhm.
I still did what I need to do.
Okay.
Yes, you
And
did.
we will be like,
A wise
how are you
woman.
going to
Yes,
let
you
him
did.
touch
That's
you
a
when you know
wise
he's with
woman.
someone else?
Mhm.
When he's with someone else, he's my husband.
Hello. And God honors
And
this.
God honored it.
Yes.
Even though I would get up and go in the bathroom and cry.
Oh, yes.
Because it didn't feel good.
I know.
Because I knew that there was someone else
Talk about it.
touching my husband. But I had to do what God told Kim to do
Okay.
so that we could be where we are now.
All right.
Because had I completely shut down, had I completely just, you can't touch me, this, that, and constantly threw it in his face, why throw in his face what he already knows?
Hello.
But me doing what I did,
Thank God.
it confused him.
Yes.
It messed him up. Because he probably was wondering.
It
Now,
did.
I know she know I just came from over
Yeah,
there.
right.
Why is she doing this? But there was many a day he would come home, bedroom set. He came from her.
Okay.
But I'm ready for my husband.
Hello.
Mhm.
Hello.
Because that's what the word tells me to do, because he was my husband.
All right. And God honors that.
He did.
Yes.
Talk about it, Jerome.
Well,
What was your feeling during that time?
Well, a lot of times, like we were talking about it earlier, I would come home and she'd be dressed up. She'd have candlelight. She'd have a nice dinner, and she would still do what God told her to do.
Uh-huh.
But I was not in the place where I can receive it and receive it with a good attitude. Okay. And when she told me that she would do anything, I said to myself right there,
Wow.
this woman, only by the grace of God can a woman still say that, knowing where I just came from.
All right now.
You know, just knowing where I came from. And that's why I tell her all the time, it's only by the grace of God now that she's with me. There's nothing that, I should say this, anything that she wants to know, all she has to do is ask me. My phone is an open book.
Okay.
I don't even have
Come
a
on.
code on it anymore. If it rings, answer it. If you feel compelled to answer it, answer it. Look through it. Whatever. Whatever you need to know, no matter what it is, we can talk about it. You know. So now,
you get a lot of thumbs up on that.
because I don't have anything to hide now. I've been broken.
Okay.
I've been picked up. I've been blessed.
Come on, sir.
God has restored myself to me, because
Wow.
I was lost. I was out there. And God says, you know, you were doing all this, but guess what? You're still my child, and I love you.
Wow.
When He forgave me, and a lot of other people didn't, oh my God, it feels like the whole world has been lifted off my shoulders, because I was brought up knowing God, knowing what He is in my life.
Okay.
But I got lost,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people out there that's going to get lost,
That's right,
you
that's
know.
right.
But you got to find your way back.
Amen.
And when this started happening to me, it's like, oh my God, I have such a beautiful and wonderful wife. Why am I doing this? But when God breaks you, when He breaks you,
Come on, son.
It's a
Because
difference.
it's the covenant.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
what that was the one thing that God taught me during that whole time.
Yeah.
God takes it personal.
Yes, He does.
Because when
Yes,
you
He does.
stand before Him and marry someone, He takes that personal because
Yes.
it's a covenant.
Yes.
So when I learned, and God said, Kim, this has nothing to do with you. This is the covenant that Jerome made to me.
Whoa.
Yes, you are feeling the effects of it,
Mm.
but this is His covenant with me.
Wow.
He broke the covenant with Him, not
Yes,
so much with me.
That's right.
He broke it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part of marriage that God takes personal. And that's why you just can't pick it up and throw it down. Now, don't get me wrong. If there is abuse, if there is something
There's
a
really
difference.
tragic,
Yeah, there's a
there's a
difference.
difference.
Yes.
But when there are things that can be resolved,
Yes,
and if
yes.
you love that
Right.
person enough and you're willing to resolve it, but that's where that communication comes
Yes,
in.
yes. Talk about communication. How important, babe, is communication? Because for this guy right here, oh my gosh.
I was horrible. I'm looking at y'all.
He is looking at the camera.
I was horrible.
I'm like, babe,
Believe
just
me.
talk. What's on your mind? Nothing.
Right.
And
What you want to do?
oh,
It
that
doesn't
drove
matter.
her crazy.
It drove me
And
crazy.
I did the
just
same
shut
thing.
down. And
And then if I ask him too much, then he's gonna shut the gate and padlock it. So
you got 2 minutes. So you better condense that thing, because when she speaks, you know, with a woman they
we
can
know.
be detailed.
Yes.
Yeah, very detailed.
Very detailed.
and verbatim. You know, I like to, you give me the main points and I'm good.
You better say
And
it.
and I start to
Yes.
shut down, and she sees me shut down, then she gets frustrated at me.
Exactly.
And now the whole conversation is gone left.
Exactly.
Now
everything is cold.
Now everything
Right.
is
The
cold.
thermostat is back on ice.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And with this one, don't change your tone. Don't raise your voice.
Uh-huh.
Because
the
this is
conversation is over.
because this is what I get right here.
Yeah.
This is it. I'm done. I'm done with this.
You know, we're gonna talk about this next week. We're gonna talk about communication,
I
and how
got you.
important
Okay.
communication is,
Right.
and how to communicate effectively.
Yes.
Because just like he stated, and just like Jerome stated, when we begin to change our tone,
Amen.
you guys shut down. And the
Yes.
reason we change our tone is because we're getting aggravated because you're not responding.
Right.
But there are correct ways to communicate.
Yes.
And I do
Fighting
understand.
fairly.
That's right. And I
Fighting
do
fairly.
understand what you
That's
said. Women, we take the long route. You
Yes,
know, we,
you do.
we got to tell the
Yes,
we have,
details.
you do.
we have points and
Yes,
bullet
you
points.
And that's the way we were
Yeah.
made.
You
God
got
designed
points,
us
you got
like that.
you got a slideshow,
Right.
you got all. I mean,
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it's like,
Believe me,
it's like
I
a Hollywood
understand.
production. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you
the point.
got to set the
Right.
stage. But trust me, that personality trait, it comes out good at some point.
Oh, yes.
Because we
Right.
know how to set the scene.
Okay.
We know
Okay.
how to turn the thermostat on.
Okay.
Okay? We know how to work up to where we want to go.
Okay now.
So that's just who we
Okay, now.
are. So then you can appreciate it.
I do appreciate
I
it.
do.
I do
When it comes
appreciate it. When it get there, when it gets there, I
But I
appreciate
think
it.
when it comes to communication, men are type A. Y'all just need the facts.
That's it.
That's
and,
it.
and women are
Exactly.
type B.
Right.
Exactly.
We have a little bit more. We want we have that more to add to it.
Mhm.
But with you guys, communication is type A. What you want, just go ahead and say it, put it out there.
Mhm.
But
But I don't need you to watch TV as I am talking.
right, because
Turn
it does-
off the TV
because
because
it makes
now
us
it
feel you're not
frustrates us.
listening.
Hello.
You're not
Okay.
listening.
So we're going to talk about that, Kim. We're going to even talk about the personality traits.
Mhm.
So it will help you identify your spouse's personal personality trait,
Yes.
because that really helps.
Right.
You know, because we talked about the different personality traits and
The
I
love
can't-
languages.
and the love
Love
languages.
languages,
So
right.
we're going to talk about the love languages, the personality traits, because the personality trait helped me to understand my husband just
Yes.
as the love language,
Yes.
because I know that he is that reserved personality. Now, I might be a little outgoing right here, but the truth be known, I'm really not an outgoing type of person.
See, that's
I will
the way
I will
Yeah,
step
I know.
up to the platform when need
When
be.
needed.
However, if you see me with the
she don't seek the line.
No.
Exactly.
And
I
if
don't
you
wanna
see
be
me
out
after
front.
this,
I don't want
I'm somewhere in my comfort zone reading a book, playing with my grandchildren. I don't have to have the
Right.
limelight, nor do I work for it. So
Right.
I understand, and we work good together once I have identified his personality trait,
Right.
meaning that he don't communicate very well.
No.
Okay, all right. So if I can help him get to the communication, we can get someplace.
Right.
Meaning, go ahead and give him the main points.
Right. Exactly.
And I also learned too, when you're communicating,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I learned about a man is if they feel like they're being attacked,
Oh, is
they're going to come out fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times, even though we're communicating it, they perceive it as an attack.
And sometimes our tone can be harsh.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So
Right.
all of that plays in with the communication. So I got to the point to where I would be like, okay, Kim, this is the way you need to say it. These are the words that you need to say. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
It depends on how well the day went.
Exactly.
Right,
It
right.
depended on where he
Yeah,
was at
yeah.
the moment.
And mentally.
if,
Right.
and if he felt guilt
Mhm.
and if he felt he was being attacked.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as we talked about, sometimes in that marriage, if there is something going on, that guilt will make you shut down.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that guilt will put you in a different
Yes, it
Absolutely.
will. Yes,
Absolutely.
it will. I agree.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, that is so true. Oh, wow. This is good.
Yeah.
Where are we for
I'm
time?
loving it.
Give us about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I love that. So we're going to talk about communication.
Okay.
We need to talk about communication and correct communication.
Yes.
And because, like Kim stated, and everyone on the panel have stated, when they feel attacked, you're going to react. And
Right.
you know, one thing I wanted to make mention of before we close this. Close out this show tonight. One thing I wanted to make mention of is that don't attack your mate at the door about 150 problems when they come in from work. That is just not the time. And I think
Thank you.
Let me tell you what I would do, y'all. And this is just me. I'm just being real. And my husband, he will tell you.
No, I don't do that.
I will come with the strong questions. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Hey, babe, can you get up? We need to talk. And it's because I couldn't get his attention
earlier.
when he first came in. Okay, I'm letting him
But you feel
unwind.
like you'll get it while
Yes.
you're asleep.
And then Andy Griffin is competing for my time.
No.
Good
Now you
time.
want to talk.
All these shows, they're competing because he needs that little downtime. So he's unwinding, and I think he's just watching television, but he's really not.
Right.
He's unwinding, so his attention is there. So I come and I try to get in during that time, but he don't hear me. Okay. All right. So I try to get in when he get in the house, but the kids are there and everybody has a need.
Right.
So 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't sleep. This thing is on my mind. I can't shut down. Hey, babe, let's talk.
Have I done that?
Yes, you have.
Oh,
No, and I
I
gotta
guess
get up at 3:30
I guess
in the
back in the
morning.
when you were already getting up.
And then at 5 o'clock, Kim, I would feel so bad because I'm ready to roll over and get some nap.
Right. I gotta get up and
Because
go to
I'm
work.
tired. Yeah, right.
Wow.
So
I gotta get up and go to
I'm
work.
sorry, babe. I'm sorry. I don't do that anymore now.
No.
I don't do that
No, you
anymore.
good. You good.
I'm good now.
Yeah.
Give me that.
All right now. All right now.
But I do understand that place because during the time when we were in that dark place, I never slept.
Mm.
He,
Never.
he would get
No.
up. He would have to be at work
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock.
Because you're tormented.
And he would get up,
Mhm.
and I would be awake.
There was lots of morning I would wake up and she's sitting up
Me too.
reading a book on.
Because it's on our mind. We can't shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
Wow.
I apologize for that.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
you know what, Jerome? You baby, babe, I'm sorry. You want to talk at 2 in the morning?
right here on the Love and Marriage Show.
Amen.
Well, God bless you, and remember, this has been your wake-up call.